convinced that he has a message to deliver. When one feels from the bottom of his feet to the top of his head that he has something to say that is going to help some individual or some cause, then let them say it. So the Riverside Unified School District Heritage Program representatives here today are proud to share some of Mr. Washington's most famous quotes and about themselves.
I have begun everything with the idea that I was succeed, and I never had much patience with the multitudes of people who are ready to explain why one cannot succeed. Success is not measured by the position one has reached in life, rather by the obstacles one overcomes while trying to succeed. Thank you.
Okay, next up, with a few words to introduce our mayor, is Philip Alconi, councilman from Ward 1.
Before I begin, I'd like to recognize my colleagues at City Council and past council members. Councilmember and Mayor Pro Tem for Ward 5, Councilmember Sean Bayless here today. And former Councilmember in Ward 1, one of my predecessors, Dr. Chuck Bailey is here. I want to thank you all for joining us here in Ward 1 in the heart of our downtown. I want to speak a little bit about two things. One, the significance of where we are, the place, Mount Rubidoux, and two, why dedicate plaques? Why dedicate moments in history? Why mark those things? First, Mount Rubidoux is significant not only to Ward 1 but to the city of Riverside, because there's something about this place that just is a gravitational pull of Riversiders up this mountain, sometimes every day, sometimes more than once a day. I know a few people. And there is something about this ground, this place that moves us and that brings us here. And I really think it's because we're here on Riverside, we know our history, we love our history, and we encourage others to learn that. And this place is not only a place of recreation, a place to better our bodies physically, but a place to better our souls spiritually, as well as when we talk about knowing our history. So that connection to history is so significant. That's why also too we dedicate plaques and mark moments in time. These are not just bronze and metal pictures into a bygone era. They are here to mark a moment in time and to teach those that come thereafter of what took place at that specific location, to maybe not always repeat the sins of the past or things in terms of what we're dedicating today, something aspirational, something positive that happened. So it's not just about the dedication of a plaque, it's about marking a moment in time and committing ourselves to those great causes. So I thank you for being here today. Please join me in welcoming our mayor of the city of Riverside, Mayor Patricia Locke Dawson.
Thank you, Councilman. I love that. I love that he's such a history geek. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Mount Rubidoux to celebrate a very special day in our history. Riverside is closing out Black History Month today by celebrating a historic meeting between two men who were notable in their own ways. Booker T. Washington's immense contributions to the field of education and Frank Miller's invaluable advocacy for our city are still producing benefits for our people. And although no city is perfect in its civil rights history, and Riverside has had its own struggles, we do have a track record of providing a diverse home for people of all backgrounds. And I think today's event is really a testament to that. This is how we do things in Riverside. We just come together and celebrate regardless of our background, regardless of where you're from, who you are. This is what we do. It started with our founding fathers, including John W. North, who many of you know was an abolitionist looking to form a colony of like-minded people. That legacy still rings today. And in addition to its abolitionist beginnings, Riverside has much to celebrate, from the Hurrah's transformational court case to Jonathan Tibbetts organizing and welcome the Mission Indian Federation of Riverside, to Dosan on Chang Ho, founding a the Chapacan, one of the earliest Korean settlements established in the U.S. So Riverside has been a leader in our sister city concept, including having sister cities from Ghana, Germany, India, Japan, and Mexico. But fast forward to today, where we celebrate diverse arts and culture, and one has to look no further than to Cheech, the first cultural center of its kind. So we're looking to continue that legacy by establishing a civil rights walk downtown with my colleague, Councilor Falcone. That's coming very soon. So I'm just going to wrap up today and just take a moment to extend my gratitude to everybody who's here today who walked the 5 minutes. It's always wonderful when you can combine an official function with a good exercise. So thanks for helping us celebrate our city's rich history and our wonderful residents and visitors. So I just want to say have a wonderful day, and I love this edition of the year. Thank you so much for coming.
I'd like to introduce Kenneth B. Speaker, believe it or not, the representative of Booker T. Washington and Frederick Douglass, a co-founder and president of Frederick Douglass Family Initiatives. We are so excited to have you here today. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. As you heard, my name is Ken Morris, and I am the great-great-great-grandson of Frederick Douglass, and I'm also the great-great-grandson of Booker T. Washington and president of Frederick Douglass Family Initiatives. And it's my honor to be here on this beautiful day in this historic place with all of you as we unveil a tablet commemorating the visit of my great-great-grandfather Booker T. Washington to Mount Rubidoux in 1914. I want to begin by expressing my gratitude to the dedication committee, Claudia, to the Friends of Mount Rubidoux, and to all of those who made this moment possible. Thank you to the dignitaries in attendance, and thank you all for being here today. This dedication to preserving history ensures that future generations will know the story of this place, this meeting, and its significance. I also want to take a moment to recognize and personally thank the Honorable Cheryl Brown of the Black Voice News for her tireless work in uncovering the complete history of Booker T. Washington's visits to Riverside in the early 1900s. In 2004, under her leadership, a bust of Booker T. Washington was unveiled in the Mission Inn, fulfilling a dream to commemorate his impactful visits. It was a momentous occasion, and I was honored to be there amongst family, and my 2 young daughters and my nephew, along with my cousin Margaret Washington, who before her passing was the oldest living granddaughter of Booker T. Washington. It was a powerful and emotional experience to stand in that space as family spanning multiple generations to honor the legacy of a man whose vision continues to guide us. Thank you, Ms. Brown. And I do want to recognize her daughter, Dr. Paulette Brown Hines, who's with us today. Paulette, please stand up and say hello. I would also like to extend my heartfelt thanks to the owners of the Mission Inn, Dwayne. Yes. Okay, that's right. I thought I was going to have to do it old school way, like Booker T. Washington did, with no amplification, but see people way at the top there, that might have been difficult. So I was thanking the current owners of the Mission Inn, Dwayne and Kelly Roberts. Their commitment to preserving this historic landmark has allowed it to remain a beacon of cultural heritage and history. Their support for events that honor the legacy of figures like Booker T. Washington is deeply appreciated. On this very spot, over a century ago, my great ancestor, Booker T. Washington, stood with Frank Miller, the owner of the Mission Inn, and gazed out over the city of Riverside. It was the final year of Washington's life, but even in his last days, he remained committed to his mission, traveling, speaking, and working to uplift his people, and by extension, the nation itself. His visit that day was part of a more extensive journey, one that took him to churches, as we've heard, the Mission Inn, and the Sherman Institute, now the Sherman Indian School, where he sought to inspire and encourage others to push forward despite the barriers placed before them. Booker T. Washington believed in the transformative power of education. Born enslaved, he understood that perhaps better than most, that knowledge was the key to liberation, not just for individuals, but for an entire people. That belief led him at the age of 25 to establish the Tuskegee Institute in 1881, an institute built on the principle that education was the path to self-sufficiency, economic empowerment, and racial uplift. Tuskegee was more than a school. It was a movement, a place where formerly enslaved men and women learned not only trades and skills, but also the values of discipline, self-reliance, and community service. During his travels, Washington formed a friendship with Frank Miller. Their relationship was more than a meeting of minds. It was a partnership rooted in a shared vision of progress and education. Miller recognized the importance of Washington's work. He became a benefactor of Tuskegee Institute, supporting its mission to provide educational opportunities to African Americans in the post-Reconstruction South. Their collaboration exemplifies how alliances across racial and social lines can lead to meaningful change and advancement. I can't help but think about what Washington saw from this mountaintop. A land full of promise, a country still struggling to live up to its ideals, a people yearning for dignity, education, and opportunity. And if he could stand here today, more than a century later, what would he see? I believe he would see progress, but he would also see the same struggles persisting: inequities in education, disparities in economic opportunity, and a nation still wrestling with the meaning of justice. The debates over access to education, fair wages, and the rights of all people to fully participate in democracy are not new. Washington fought these battles in his time just as Frederick Douglass did in his. And just as I and all of us must continue to fight them today. But he would also see something else. He would see resilience. He would see the power of community, the strength of those who refuse to let history be erased, and enduring hope that fuels movements for justice and equality. That is what makes this moment so meaningful. This tablet is more than just a marker of an event long past. It is a reminder that history is a living thing. It shapes, informs, and challenges us to carry its lessons forward. So today, as we unveil this tribute to men who believed in the dignity of labor, the power of education, and the necessity of economic self-determination, let us ask ourselves, what will we do with the view from our mountaintop? Will we be content to admire it? Or will we take the hard road down into the valley and do the work that must be done? We must continue his work if we truly want to honor Booker T. Washington's legacy. We must invest in education. We must ensure that every child, regardless of race, background, or zip code, has access to knowledge and opportunity, because that was his vision, and it must be ours as well. Thank you all for being here, for honoring this history, and for continuing the journey. Thank you, and God bless.
Okay, next up, we have Mr. Glenn Wenzel, one of my four bosses, president of the Riverside Rubidoux, to talk about what Booker T did in Riverside that day.
welcome everyone. I, as a local history historian, I guess, was going to concentrate on that event of the one day. So many events in Riverside that when people came, they maybe just spent one day here, but they made quite an influence in the time they were here. Booker T. Washington visit. Delightfully for Riverside citizens, Booker T. Washington, the famous educator and reformer, visited our city on Sunday, March 22nd, 1914, to deliver 4 talks. Washington began the day speaking at the morning service at the First Congregational Church, congregation that Frank A. Miller attended. The press that day reported, he must have been rather more than gratified on Sunday morning to have been greeted by the largest crowd that ever assembled in a Riverside church. Washington that day was described as a man who was average looking. But the reporter went on and said, his power is not apparent until he begins to speak, and then his admirable diction, his quaint sense of humor, his extreme earnestness and enthusiasm for his cause he pleads, adds a magnetic quality to his presence. Washington told that morning how he had been born a slave on a plantation in Virginia around 1859. He outlined some of the small details of his life. He then went on to talk about how he was asked to start a school in Tuskegee Institute. And that was the reason for his travels, as we've already heard. At the conclusion of his talk, he was applauded and congratulated for his years of educational service. That afternoon at 3, Washington addressed 500 people in the packed sanctuary of the Second Baptist Church on 12th and Howard. Many of the Baptist church members had remained after the morning service to ensure that they would have a seat for the afternoon program. Groups of people from Redlands, Colton, San Bernardino, and other surrounding areas flocked to Riverside to hear Booker T. Washington. The Reverend W.D. Hardiman, pastor of the church, introduced Washington. At this church, he spoke for over an hour, eloquently and passionately, giving advice and counsel in his fight against illiteracy. At Washington's request, the choir that afternoon sang, among other songs, Old Time Religion, a song which our choir will be shortly singing. Early in the afternoon, Washington traveled with Frank Miller and others down Magnolia Avenue to review the regimental parade at Sherman Institute. Miller was one of the leading advocates who brought Sherman to Riverside from nearby Paris. Washington then addressed both students and employees in the dining hall. His hearers were deeply impressed with his earnestness. The Sherman Bulletin, the student newspaper, reported, his remarks were listened to with the closest attention and given hearty applause at their conclusion. Among the many messages he left with the students at Sherman was he felt the world was increasingly judging any race of people by its best representatives rather than its worst. Later that evening, Washington capped the day with a speech at 8 in the music room of the Mission Inn. Every seat in the room was filled long before the program began. Again, he spoke about the importance of education and the founding of the Tuskegee Institute. In introducing Washington, Miller quoted Collis P. Huntington, the railroad person, who called him the wisest man of the age. Miller declared he had to agree with Huntington after hearing Booker T. Washington speak. At some point that day, Washington accompanied Frank Miller to the top of Mount Rubidoux, near where we are, to see the panoramic view of the city and the surrounding area. Mount Rubidoux has become known as a place of peace and friendship. As noted by the countless photos taken at the top of Mount Rubidoux, this was a recognized spot where Riversiders would bring their friends and relatives and share an inspiring vista of Riverside and the surrounding area. Frank A. Miller considered Booker T. Washington his friend, took him up the mountain, and had their picture taken up here. Booker T. Washington in that picture is standing a little above Miller, with Miller sort of almost in his shadow. The photo of the two men has been reproduced in many publications, the city history, the Mission Inn history, and is on the cover of your program today and on the tablet that we will be dedicating. Washington stayed at the Mission Inn at Frank Miller's personal invitation. When Washington requested that his meal be sent to his room because of his unhappy experiences at other places, Miller insisted that Washington eat with him at his personal table in the dining room. About a week later, on March 30th, Booker T. Washington wrote a letter to Frank Miller. In the letter, he said, "My dear Mr. Miller, now that I have reached home, I am taking advantage of the first opportunity to thank you again for all that you did for me while I was in Riverside. My visit to Riverside was most satisfactory and helpful from every point of view, and I shall never cease to be grateful to you and all the good friends there. At some time in the future, I hope we can have the privilege of welcoming you to Tuscany. Yours very truly, Booker T. Washington." Booker T. Washington remained the head of the Tuskegee until his death on November 14, 1915. His funeral was 2 days later at the chapel there at Tuskegee. But memorial services were held in many places throughout the United States, including here in Riverside on the very same day as the memorial service at Tuskegee. Frank A. Miller organized that event, and it was held in the music room of the Mission Inn, the very same room that Washington had spoken in about a year and a half earlier. Some of the city's leading citizens, both black and white, spoke during this service. We already heard during the 90th anniversary that the bus at the Mission Inn was dedicated and is still there as a testimony of this visit. Today we gather to remember Booker T. Washington for his eloquence, his striving to educate on race and equality, his promotion of literacy, and his unique ability to engage the minds of all people. We also honor Washington's good friend, Frank A. Miller, who warmly greeted and welcomed him to Riverside. Together, they demonstrate true friendship.
From the Heritage Program at Martin Luther King High School, we have Laura Miller and Jonathan Hurd.
Booker T. Washington got his first book and taught himself to read. He thought, to get into a schoolhouse and study would be about the same as getting into paradise. When he was 16, he traveled 500 miles to the Hampton Institute, where he attended classes by day and worked nights to earn his room and board. We sometimes take educational opportunities for granted, but the Riverside Unified School District Heritage Program provides African American students with purposeful, academic, instructional, motivational, and familial supports that facilitate our progression towards college, career, and world readiness upon graduation, the goal of Mr. Washington.
I learned that assistance given to the weak makes the one who gives it strong, and that oppression of the unfortunate makes one weak. If you want to lift yourself, lift someone else up. I will permit no man to narrow and degrade my soul by making me hale. Thank you.
As Lynn mentioned, at his visit to Second Baptist Church, Mr. Washington requested the old time religion be performed, and our choir is going to perform that for us now. Thank you. Notary asked for it. That's awesome. All right, so here we go. Unfortunately, if you're sitting in one of those chairs, you can't see the tablet. You'll be able to see it on your way down the hill. So we're going to unveil it now. We'd like to welcome up forth from Institute, Reverend Turner from First Congregational Church, Pastor Gant, Stephanie McMorris of Sherman Youth High School, and Walter Parks, Michigan Foundation, the third president of Michigan Foundation. So we've got everywhere represented that Booker T visited that day. Let's come on down to the tablet. By the way, you should know that Annie News, Frank Miller's great-great-granddaughter, wanted to be here today, but she couldn't make it, and she was very disappointed about that. Oh, I was going to show you what the tablet looked like when you stay in your seat, but if you want to come look, you can come look. Let's do it. Can we get the 7 committee members by the tablet? Okay, guys, you can come on down. We'll do the next group. Okay, you got it, Walter? Let Hunter. Okay, back to your seat.
Well, good to see you.
Okay, once after the mayor and the council folks get their picture, can we get you to take a seat? You can stay after and take all the pictures you want. And Kennedy Ocean Bluff.
One of the most powerful hymns in America's history, lyrics, Lift Every Voice and Sing, was written by James Weldon Johnson. At the turn of the 20th century, Johnson taught at a second-grade public school in Jacksonville, Florida. While teaching at the school in 1900, he was presented with the opportunity to pen lyrics for a song to be sung by a student chorus at the program celebrating Lincoln's birthday. He engaged the talents of his younger brother, J. Rosman Johnson, to set his new lyrics to music. Within 2 decades, the song had achieved widespread popularity. The Library of Congress 1900 sheet music is respectfully dedicated to Booker T. Washington.
Lift every voice and sing, till earth and heaven. Let our rejoicing rise, high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling seas. Sing a song full of faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun, let us march on till victory is won.
Stony the road we trod, bitter the chastising rod, felt in the days when hope on board had died, yet with a steady beat we have not a weary feet. Come to the place for which our fathers sighed, we have come over a way that with tears have been watered. We have come, treading our path through the blood of the slaughtered. Out from the gloomy past, till now we stand at last, where the light gleam of our bright stars cast.
God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, Thou who hast brought us thus far on the way, Thou who hast guided by Thy might, let us into the light. Keep us forever in the path we pray, lest our feet stray from the places, our God, where we met Thee, lest our hearts drunk with the wine of the world we forget Thee. Shadowed beneath Thy hand, may we forever stand, true to our God, true to our native land. Thank you.
Okay, for our final song, You'll Never Walk Alone, performed by soloist Barbara Whitman.
Good afternoon again. I can imagine for the Washington coming to Riverside, not knowing what he was going to encounter here. So the song says, "You never walk alone," and we know that our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ was with him, so he never walked alone.
When you walk through a storm, hold your head up high and don't be afraid of the dark. At the end of the storm is a golden light and the sweet silver sound of a lark. Walk on through the wind, walk on through the rain, though your dreams be tossed and blown. Walk on with hope in your heart, and you'll never walk alone. Walk on with hope in your heart, and you'll never walk alone. You'll never walk alone. Outstanding. So for our benediction, I'd like to introduce Pastor T. Ellsworth again. Second Baptist Church, now Second Earth Church. As Glenn said, it was the second church that Booker T visited in Riverside.
Thank you. I'm a little overdressed and I'm hot. My shoes are dirty. I'm tired. And I need a ride down first. Now, seriously, now, my wife's at home. She had knee surgery and I need to get home too. And if someone would switch places with me on the van, I would appreciate it, because I just need to make sure my wife is okay. Is that okay? And you can check the record. She had knee surgery. Right before, I'm going to do something different, and that's what happens when you invite me to do stuff. I'm different. A benediction is nothing but a blessing, well wishes, but it's always something that's appropriate. Listen, at a spiritual service, invocation, spiritual service, you've made this thing a spiritual service. You ought to put your hands together, because you put a place here. When they came up in their wildest imagination, they never figured that 100 years or so, people would be commemorating a walk up a mountain, not on a road, but as Dale Roberts informed me, on a trail. I just want y'all to think about that. We rode up. Some will ride back. But the point is, our journey has not been in vain. So today, I want those of you that are seated, if you be kind enough to stand up, I want everyone along the wall, if you could move closer to one another. Some stuff is happening to try to divide us at every turn. When we got to remember, we're all one people. We're human beings. And we have to do things with love, compassion, genuineness, honesty, and be our brother's keeper. This would be in vain if we don't leave it here a little better than we came. And after hearing everything that we've heard today, over 100 years ago, an abolitionist who hid slaves and a slave came together. God orchestrated it, and now we're celebrating it. Don't tell me that we can't do better. We did it then, and we can do it now. Let's do it now. Let's do better now. And here's what I want you to do. Just grab the person's hand next to you, and you're going to repeat after me. The peace of God gives me my strength. The joy of the Lord gives me my love. The power by which I grasp a hand is the same power that I give you credit for. Bless us in our journey. Protect us in our walk. And may your blessings fall afresh upon us. In Jesus' name. God bless you. Where's my wife? I'm not joking. Hey, a comedian said, these ain't jokes.
Okay, we're coming down the home stretch. I wanted to share with you that Glenn Wenzel asked me to lead this project in February of 2024 at a Friends of Mount Rubidoux board meeting. And I thought to myself, what, could I get one thing done in a year? After I would have scores of projects a year in my prior life, of course I can get one thing done in a year. Well, it wasn't that easy. And I definitely could not have done it alone, so if I could, let's get the committee to come up here so I can introduce everybody. The program was printed yesterday, the tablet was put on last Saturday, just in the nick of time. So we have Debbie Newton, obviously you've seen Glenn, Katie Green, Rose Mays, Brad Curry, and Glenn Hunter. I have to tell you, we had, at those first meetings, we had some big goals. doves, t-shirts, postcards, all of this to make it a memorable event. And at the end of the day, I think we did it without those things. We just wanted to get it across the line. A very, very special thank you to all those at the Parks Department. I cannot tell you, and I've told Pamela, they have been spectacular to work with. Their support was outstanding. Please review our sponsors list on the back of your program, along with the individuals who donated their services to us today. Consider supporting them if they're a business. If they're an individual, support the causes that they support, because we think that helps everybody in the long run. So now I'm going to turn it over to Glenn Wenzel.
Thank you, Claudia. Good afternoon. As I've said, I'm the president of the Friends of Mount Rubidoux. About a year and a half ago, we came up with the idea that another tablet was needed up here on the mountain to commemorate the occasion of Booker T. Washington's visit. One of the most important and the best thing that I did as president was to ask Claudia to head this committee. Yes, definitely give Claudia a hand. Claudia took the assignment and ran with it. She pushed, pulled, encouraged, and coordinated everyone along the way and took on many of the tasks herself. If it wasn't for Claudia, you wouldn't be sitting on a chair. And so many other things she did. I also want to echo very loudly her thanks to Pamela Galera and her staff. They have been wonderful to work with. Riverside City Parks has a great group of workers. I can't thank them enough for what they've done. I've also enjoyed immensely working with Rose Mays and the Riverside African American Historical Society. We asked them right off after we started, would you please work with us and help coordinate this? And Rose jumped in, as she always does, and she's wonderful to work with. So as we commemorate this day, thank you for coming. Thank you for making what it is. And as the last pastor said, God bless you as we walk together.
Thank you, Glenn. So I'm going to ask you to think back to Mr. Washington's first quote from today about making someone else more happy and more useful. And I'd like to have you consider one final quote from his book. No man who continues to add something to the material, intellectual, and moral well-being of the place in which he lives is long left without proper reward. I can't help but think that Mr. Washington and Mr. Miller's time was spent discussing how to do just that. I'd ask that you consider doing that as well as we work together to make Riverside even more a remarkable place to be. Thank you everyone for coming. Have a great day.
One last thing I almost forgot. We are putting together a commemorative booklet after today. We waited till after today so we could use the pictures, the speeches, and incorporate it in it. We're going to be having it ready by June for a joint meeting of the Riverside Historical Society and the Riverside African American Historical Society. We will be sending out that information to everybody on our email list. So if you haven't signed up on one of our email lists, do so for that event.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you again for coming. If you came on a van, go down to the platform. You can see Pastor Gant running.